Hello, everybody, and this is ChasingCinema.com. Hopefully, you've been tuning in all 117 podcasts, but if not, I welcome you to the Chasing Cinema podcast, where we here talk about the world of motion pictures. My name is Jacob Toronto, and unlike most of our podcasts, today I have a special co-host. Not too different, one that you might know from our video reviews. He is an amazing, amazing guy. He's helped Chasing Adam out from the very beginning, one of the earliest believers in what we do here. Ladies and gentlemen, James Shue. James Shue, how are you, sir?
Chasing, what's happening?
Nothing much, man. I am enjoying the week. I've been watching a lot of stuff, getting prepared for this podcast. So we want to thank you really quick for having you on. Louis a little bit schedule conflicted this week, so we're glad to be able to get you on. We've been wanting to get you back on. You are the most reoccurring guest on Chasing Cinema's podcast, so we thank you for that.
It's an honor and a privilege, sir. And just as a disclaimer for everybody, I am not a film pundit, film critic. It would be silly for me to say I don't review film, because technically I do review a film, but I'm not a real film critic. That is Chasing. That is Mr. Jacob R. Toronto. He is the man behind that, but hopefully I can share with some insights from everybody from a very generic, the mainstream audience. I'm excited.
Yes, me and James have developed a very good friendship over the time, but we've also been able to develop quite an interesting head-butting relationship, if you will, when we come to talk about movies. But like I said, I've become very good friends with Mr. Shue, and I respect his opinions, even though sometimes I think they're not always right. But I mean, that's the great thing about friends. That's the great things about friends, what we get to do here. So just the way we always start off this podcast is we talk about what we've been watching this week. And some of the stuff I've been watching, I'll be saving for next week. To kind of turn the tone down for a moment, this week was quite a tragic week in the world of cinema, as we tragically lost legendary comedian and actor Robin Williams, and we also lost Lauren Bacall. So we are very, very upset in that, and we've decided to dedicate a whole episode next week for Robin Williams, as we explain our top 5 favorite Robin Williams performances next week. But it was quite sad, and the whole world has been talking about it, and we decided the best way to approach that situation would be to do a podcast in his honor, which would be next week. So I don't want to kind of focus on that. We will be focusing it all on next week. So, we want, as much as we respect these people, we also want to make sure that you're not bummed out listening to us. We all are very sad by the news, and I was a big fan, and I know James was too, and me and James talked about this a lot this week. But we will be talking about it much more in depth next week. But so I'll be saving some of the things I've been watching, because I was watching in his honor. But James, what have you been watching this week, sir?
I'm not going to lie to you, sir. I don't have a lot of time. I'm always working our business. I don't have a lot of time to watch anything, just to be honest with you, other than just catching up on some YouTube stuff. I don't know if anyone doesn't watch Philip DeFranco on YouTube. It is just he just talks about things that interest him. He's interesting. I watch him daily, or whenever he has his videos, which is almost every other day. And I watch Devin Supertramp. If you don't know who that is, he is a YouTube star that has the most amazing life. He's sent all around the world, and he films cinematic awesomeness. His newest video, he just did the world's largest zip line. It is awesome. As you know, I love to say that. It is awesome. And other than that, brother, haven't been watching too much. I've been reading a lot, but we'll talk more about news in a minute.
Yeah, definitely. James is definitely are going to be like Louis in the news department. He is always coming up to me and Louis to talk about news, and I have to run away, so I don't hear what they're talking about. Like I said, I watched a lot of things in honor of Robin Williams this week, but I was able to catch a film that I've been wanting to watch for a while. It's actually an older film called Badass Cinema, and there's 5 S's at the end, I believe. And it's a documentary on blaxploitation and its rise in the early 70s. And it was a very interesting film. Elvis Mitchell, someone I'm a big fan of, and we've had him on the podcast, someone who's mentored me for quite some time, is in this documentary along with Quentin Tarantino. They have they have a great cast along with a lot of people who were like actors and actresses from the blaxploitation period, and it's a really great documentary to kind of see how the rise and fall of this kind of now almost forgotten genre. So there's a lot of great blaxploitation films that people have kind of missed, and I recommend this movie will really point you in the direction of some really, really great ones.
Love it.
So yeah, and I also watched a few other films. Some of them I can't talk about just yet. Other ones we'll be talking about as we go on in this podcast. So let's just move on. Mr. Shu, what do you have for movie news?
It's confirmed now, so I wanted to talk very quickly. And hey, let me throw it out too. I'm going to do my best job to take over just today for Mr. Louis Vuitton, Mr. Louis Corzolo. So hopefully I can do that justice for him. But it looks like it's confirmed that, and there's videos of this already, that Ben Affleck has hurt his shoulder. It's nothing serious. It wasn't broken like Harrison Ford did because of his old age in episode 7.
Yes.
But it's seriously, he's just old. But yeah, Ben Affleck, beast mode, win ham, and it looks like he hurt his shoulder, which it doesn't look like it's a big deal. But man, I just love Ben Affleck. Has gone insane. He is bulked up. He's gonna be the biggest Batman we've ever had, and he will not allow one critic. Critics will be able to say, "Hey, you could say you don't like the movie. You could say whatever when it comes out." But I don't think Ben Affleck's going to allow anyone to say he did not put his all into this Bruce Wayne and into this Batman. I think he's going to go crazy chasing.
Oh, you know how excited I was when that news first came out. Actually, we had a one of our reviews when that news first broke. We had a big thing about it, and Ben Affleck and Batman is a match made in heaven for me. That is peanut butter and jelly that just has been separated for far too long.
Peanut butter jelly time.
So when I heard that, I'm excited, and I'm not surprised that this man is doing all he can for this role, because I think for Ben Affleck, especially being friends with Kevin Smith and in that gang of friends, constantly Batman being joked about and Batman being a major thing that's talked about. It is a very respected comic and a very respected character. So I think Ben Affleck thought it. I'm assuming from what I know and what I read about Ben Affleck and their conversations with Kevin Smith and so on, that he is very much respect and honored to play that character, or privileged to play that character, as I would assume he would say. So I think he is going to give it his all, and I think people are going to be so shocked and so totally blown away by how he's going to do this Batman, because I think it's going to be different than whatever we've seen before.
It's not even debatable anymore. The town, regardless if one or two people percentage didn't like it, overall critics liked it, people liked it. Awesome.
Yes.
And you saw how buff he was. Add on 20 more pounds of muscle. That's the Bruce Wayne we're going to get. Then we got Argo. Doesn't matter if you liked it or not. Majority critics and overall, it was awesome. He won the Guild Award for the director's pick. Who was the best director of that year? Last 2013, he won that, and then the Oscar snub. We won't even go into details about that. And I am so excited, and this goes into our next topic about Gone Girl.
Yes.
That comes out in October.
Yeah.
And it's been in the news a little lately because they got the original author to write the screenplay, which we can only be happy about that. And people are asking, well, what's the ending going to be like? Because if you read the book, it's going to be the exact same thing as the film adaptation. And I don't know exactly what happened, but certain people said that she said, it's going to be a different ending, because I want even our readers and our readers that fell in love with Gone Girl to be able to have a brand new ending that they didn't have originally. And then it just came out. That's what we're talking about today, is now David Fincher, they're just putting us in a whirlwind where he's like, no, it's changed, but it's not. It is not. So
yeah,
I'm just so excited about this, because we're going to see Ben Affleck. It looks like he's going to play a crazy husband. I love that. We're going to see Rosamund Pike. I think I said her name wrong, but forgive me. We're going to see her go off, and this movie is going to be fun.
I am, of course, excited. However, I've been so good. Louis has tried many times to sit me down and make me watch a trailer. I literally know pretty much nothing of Gone Girl except that Ben Affleck, my man, is starring in it. So I am super excited for this picture. But I have heard that there's been a lot of things about books changing, and I think that same theory kind of affected the movie we're going to be talking about a movie we're going to be talking about later tonight or later in the podcast. So we're going to have to bring that back up again. But Ben Affleck, I think, I don't know what it is. I try my best not to have a bias, but Ben Affleck literally has yet to really, really disappoint me. I kind of see good in all of his performances. So this one is just going to probably be another one that I enjoy. However, I missed one of his last pictures that was directed by Terrence Malick, famous for Tree of Life, The Thin Red Line, called To the Wonder. And I know it's on my Netflix, and I have to still watch it. But Terrence Malick is really hit or miss with me. Me and Lou have talked about The Tree of Life many times, but I will have to sit down and actually watch that one.
I love it. All right, next bit of news we want to briefly talk about is Mark Hamill. As everyone knows, episode 7, the threesome is back. We got Carrie Fisher, we got Mark Hamill, and we got Harrison Ford. And he just tweeted a brand new photo on set from episode 7, and he is in the best shape that he's been in probably since the original Star Wars. He is thinned out. He looks a lot better. And man, I mean, since we're Batman geeks, sweaty nerds on this podcast right now, I mean,
yes.
No one will ever do a better Joker voice than Mr. Mark Hamill.
Yes, and I will agree with you. I honestly feel like Mark Hamill has done the best Joker.
Yeah, it's awesome. So being able to see him do that, and it's exciting to see where the Mouseketeer house, it's going to be exciting to see where Disney takes these Lucasfilms in our Star Wars universe, and we're getting episode 7 by JJ. I think he did a phenomenal job with Star Trek Chasing. Mm-hmm. For those of us that missed can you tell us your thoughts on what he did for Star Trek reboot, and then how do you feel about this episode 7 coming along with the original trio back?
Well, specifically, Star Trek Into Darkness, I thought totally brought an amazing new life to these characters that we, people, especially from my generation, kind of missed the cutoff where they watched the older Star Trek generation, and it wasn't as interesting as the classic that people love. However, watching the first Star Trek, I was intrigued. Watching the second Star Trek, I fell in love, and I think he did an amazing job of bringing those characters back to life and really, really showing appreciation for those characters. A problem I had with last week's movie, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, is I felt that the filmmakers did not care for those characters like I could tell J.J. Abrams cared for those characters in Star Trek. So for that, I really respect him. The fact that he cared about them, it showed because they were developed, they were interesting, and I cared about them.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. It's as far as Star Wars now. Me and Louis has brought up Star Wars probably every week on this podcast, and I really am kind of at a point where I really don't know what to expect, and I'm really not trying to put too much anticipation on it. But I mean, it's going to be huge, and I'm honestly more than the movie. I am excited for the filled theaters, for the crowds dressing up. I am excited for that. Really, really. I mean, because we've seen that somewhat with the Avengers and Hunger Games and things like that, but it is never like it has been when it is Star Wars. When it is Star Wars, the theaters are like shopping malls on Black Friday, and that's what I'm more excited for than anything.
And that's one of the reasons why I fell in love with film, and I enjoy being on these calls, these podcasts with you, is because, and doing all of our videos that we do, I enjoy it because that's what film does. It doesn't matter what nationality, what race, what size, big, small, tall, short, where you come from. People love film, and when you have a cultural phenomenon like Star Wars, it takes everyone, and Disney's doing such a good job because they give us this Pixar universe, and even that brings a certain type of people when you're in that theater with us, midnight screening or whatever screening, and people are in the movie screaming, yelling, clapping at because Iron Man did something, or Wall-E made us cry, or Up made us cry. Oh, I love film. Yes. Love it.
A great example of that is I screened The Dark Knight Rises 3 times in one day with you, sir, when we did the Dark Knight Rises release. And to this day, no matter how many times I watch that film, because it is one of the most reoccurring films that I watch for some reason. If it's on, I watch it. The ending, those last few very powerful moments when we have reveal after reveal after reveal, it's still never as effective when we had the cheers and the screams when he reveals his name's Robin, or the cheers when Alfred sees Mr. Wayne sitting with Selena Kyle. It is something that sometimes misses, and that's why I always advise people to go to the theater, because the theater is one of the last it really is one of the last experiences strangers can all go and share an experience with and cry and laugh with total strangers and then walk out and just have been moved more than just the film, but by sharing it with other people. And that's exactly why we started this website. And you already know that, though. I mean, that is a very powerful thing for me. And the conversation of film, the power of film bringing people together, strangers and people who might have different views on life and politics or whatever it may be. In that theater, in those 2 hours, it doesn't matter because they are all I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. I still love you, man.
Yeah.
It's what film does,
yes,
basically.
Thank you.
It is what film. That's what film is, and it's weird because we're not even trying. Me and Chasey are just talking to each other as brothers. It actually goes into my next topic, something that I'm guilty of. I can't deny it, and I have to admit the truth. And it's something that I want your opinion on this, Chasing. And this isn't even something we've talked about, which actually kind of gets me more excited about this because I'm really curious about your thoughts on this. Okay, Expendables 3, we're going to talk about that later, but Expendables 3 came out, and 2 weeks prior, or maybe even 3 weeks, doesn't matter, but prior to it coming out, it was leaked online. And we're not talking about a theater version meaning someone had like a camera, a handheld camera in the theater, and it's just some crap version. A DVD quality version of the Expendables 3 was leaked a few weeks ago. And right now it has about 2 million downloads. So about 2 million people. If you consider, let's just say $10 a ticket, you're talking a loss of, give or take, you could say $20 million. Now, yes, true, not all 2 million would have actually gone to see the movie because they only downloaded just because they saw it. But the point is, revenue is lost, and piracy is becoming a huge thing. The Hollywood this time last year, in the year 2014, we are about 20% lower revenue-wise than we were exactly this time last year. And Hollywood is not doing well as a whole. And I know when you hear things like Captain America did $750 million in the worldwide box office, X-Men did $700 million plus. And that's true that there's these movies that are, but as a whole, Hollywood is down 20%. And it's because of things like this, where we are pirating movies faster than ever before. People are not going to theater as much as they can. I wanted to ask you, and we were just talking about how one of the things that we love about film is when you're in a theater with 3, 4, and Chasing, I've never been into a theater like this, but in Texas and New York, they have theaters that fit 700 people. I don't know if you know that.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I know.
So, and I've never been in an experience like that, but here in Las Vegas, our biggest theater, you're going to fit about 350 people. Mm-hmm. And when you're in this atmosphere, it's awesome. And this element that we're actually saying right now of why we love film potentially is about to dissipate because the figures aren't coming in as strong anymore. And I mean, tell me your thoughts. Piracy is at an all-time high. I can't lie. I've watched pirated movies before. I can't lie, and I'm one of the causes probably to this cancer. Just to be very honest and not make myself.
Just be told. It feels. You're not the first person to ask this kind of question on maybe not in such a statistic and well researched form, but most people ask me why aren't movie theaters the way as busy as they are, and it seems like. It seems like the older generation that tends to ask me this question have a problem with what is being made nowadays. Though the younger generation does like it, but the younger generation seems to only like some of the things coming out. It's really, really divided where it seems like, at a certain time frame when a movie would come out, people of all ages and all things would go, but it seems like they are so worried about demographics and so about an audience that they're trying to attract. I feel like at the same time they do kind of exclude others, and I feel like movies, a certain period of time, movies kind of were a lot more less. How would you just say for a certain demographic? I don't think that's the only problem. I think there are a lot of problems. I mean, obviously, we've all noticed that movies have raised in price, and it is hard to bring a family of 4 with kids who want popcorn and soda to a theater, and I understand that as well. But as you said, the world of technology nowadays, of streaming and getting things to people faster than ever, downloading, piracy, Netflix, all these type of things, YouTube. I mean, it really encourages people to do. There's so many new ways to do things. It really kind of strays them away of the old. And however, I to this day will tell you that if you watch a movie, you need to be in a theater. You need to be with a group, because no matter how or where you watch that movie, if you watch it in a classroom on a computer, or you watch it in your 50-inch TV in your house with your family, it's still not as nearly as great as an experience as it is with a bunch of people. But, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what it is that is kind of happening to this medium. You know, I feel like no matter what, I feel like I'm very strong believer in the fact that the theater will stand and people will continue to go, even if in 20 years the people that do go to the theater are small. I mean, you could think of it like actual theater. I mean, there are people who just love the theater, but there are people who have never been to a theater show in their entire life. But there is that audience, and that might be the future. But technology also is fighting back with things like 3D and more interactive screens, and now they're making, you know, screens that go around the entire room, and, you know, they're trying to make it more interactive and an experience, which could be also a good or bad thing. But you know, I also feel like, you know, a lot of people have said we are at a time where film is kind of starting to end, where we're at a decline. And however, I think with the amazing technology we've tapped into, as much as it can be an enemy, I feel like it's a double-edged sword, and I feel like we are at the beginning of something amazing. And I think that in 10 years when we go to a theater, it might be a totally different experience, but I hope it's a totally different experience for the better.
No, It's scary, and I kind of, and this is also something scary. Thank you for that, Chasing. This is something else I wanted to ask you. I don't know if you heard, but everyone knows Purge. One day out of the year, you're allowed to kill people.
Yes.
I'm just trying to summarize it. One day out of the year, you're allowed to kill people. It's legal for 12 hours. If you Google this to get more details, just because we don't have the time on the podcast to go into full detail, Jacksonville and Kentucky have threats that our authorities are taking serious, where people are saying that on this day, and I believe Kentucky is tomorrow night at midnight, supposedly these people, these gangs per se, are going to do a purge. And the authorities are taking it serious, and it's scary. There are people out there, man, that and
I'm sorry, James, can you repeat the last sentence you just said? I'm sorry, we kind of had a little disconnection right there.
No, it's okay. What was the last thing you heard?
I heard you said these people, and then you kind of cut off.
It's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's very scary what happens, that people take the film so serious, and then the overly sensitive people blame the film when it has nothing to do with the film, because the idea of killing isn't from Purge. That's from people, and it's scary. I want you to Google it later, Chasing, just to check it out.
I will, because
I hope it's not true.
Yeah, I would hope it's not true either. I mean, that's kind of a very sad thing to kind of hear, that people would want something like that. After the movie, though it is about it, pretty much condemns the Purge in every way, shape, or form. It literally tries to show you how bad it is. You know, they say crime is at all-time low, but then you see these innocent people getting raped and killed and stabbed. And I mean, that's kind of saying, like, this is not a good thing. But, you know, movies, I would agree with you, you know, to a specific degree. You know, a lot of people do blame movies for a lot of things. However, it is pretty amazing what we have taken from movies and how movies have kind of taught us to be. I mean, tell me in times in your life you don't reflect the films and how you act or how you approach. You know, I always ask, you know, what do people say is their ideal date? They always say things like a long walk on the beach, or a walk under the moon in a park. And you know, and those were you know, those were some, yeah, they were in books, but I mean, those scenes, those thoughts of sitting in a car on a cliff to watch the sunrise comes from film. Like, those are things we've seen, and that's how we feel that romance is. And there are certain things that we see and we try to reenact in everyday life that you might not even notice, that film has taught us. Film has taught us as a people how to be, in a sense, in so many ways. And I'm not saying every film. I'm not saying that we learned everything. I mean, but I would really like for people to kind of think about how many subtleties they do, either because a movie has taught, or something they've seen, or something that they've kept with them. And I think that's important too. However, I also feel just because a movie says something doesn't mean it's necessarily right, because as in The Purge, yes, it's a movie about a night that everyone is allowed to do whatever they want. However, watching the film, it does show you that it is something that they don't want you to do. They're showing you it's a bad thing. So I feel like, though people like to blame things, it's really in the messages and the themes of films that really tell you what they want to tell you. So I think that's really, really important. And as you read my reviews and heard me say a lot in my reviews, that if a movie doesn't have a message, if a movie really doesn't have a point and is just being made to simply be made, that's a major thing for me that will take me out of the film and enjoying the film.
That's fair. Yeah, check it out, Chasing. I want you to. It's scary, dude. I don't know. I don't like it at all. But
yeah,
do we have more time for a couple more?
Yeah. Go ahead. We are way ahead of time.
Godzilla 2 has an official release date. We're gonna go for June 8th of 2018. Godzilla 2, 2018. 4 years away. Chasing cinema. The question for you is 4 years too long? Because we hear the expression "strike while the iron is hot." Disney and Marvel is the biggest advocate saying, yep, strike when it's hot. 4 years later for Godzilla 2. Are we going to lose interest?
Well, it really depends. Me and Louis had a good conversation about this as we found out in the San Diego Comic-Con that they'll be releasing Skull Island, which is an adaptation of King Kong.
King Kong!
So I believe the only reason why to bring King Kong back on the screen is to eventually bring him face-to-face to... to face Godzilla. We've seen this film before. However, it was very low budget and not many people enjoyed it. But I think that's the overall goal. And as me and Louis were kind of talking about how we would do things, I think if we watch Skull Island, which I believe comes out in 2016.
Yes.
Okay. So 2016, which is only 2 years away, and give us some sort of end credit or hint, or not even a hint. I would be pretty, obvious about it, but not maybe so obvious they actually face-to-face, but to tell us that in the Godzilla 2, King Kong and Godzilla are going to share a screen, and I think that's a great way to keep us kind of looped up. And just as you pointed out, just like Marvel and the comic book world, it's intertwining, and I think that'd be very, very smart, because if they do make King Kong again, and they make it in that same... and to say the same film, the film's been made 3 different times. I mean, I don't know if it needs to be made again. It has been like a decade or so, but I don't know if it needs to be remade again for no reason. I would have the movie, at the end, King Kong is fighting some airplanes and all that stuff, or whatever. They decide to keep him alive for whatever they would do, and then all of a sudden, they hear things from under the ocean, and in the very end, the guy looks up and says, "Oh my God, it's Godzilla!" Cut. That's what you just tease it and make people really want it, because I think that's the direction they're going in. I could be totally wrong, but that's what I would do. If Skull Island has nothing to do with Godzilla, I think that it might be too long. But then again, I've always been an advocate for making us miss something, because once you've drowned characters, they tend to get old very, very quickly. But I've always loved the fact of missing characters. Like, I think Dumb and Dumber 2. I'm not a Dumb and Dumber fan. I don't like the first one, but they've given you such a long period of time to miss those characters that seeing them is going to really, really be a big payoff. Same thing with Star Wars. Seeing Harrison Ford, seeing Carrie Fisher in these characters in Star Wars after such a long time, I think it's going to be a bigger payoff rather than the next year where it's like, okay, we're watching just another movie with them in it. It doesn't give you that longing. So I really don't know how that's going to work out. It all depends on Skull Island, I guess.
If they really do make their own monster cinematic universe, that includes, and technically you could have the Kaiju, you could technically have Pacific Rim, we're all under the same studio, so that would be crazy if you saw Del Toro's Pacific Rim with the Godzilla, with a Skull Island. But I think, let me say this too, so anyone who's wondering, I love the idea because I'm an idiot and you could just do anything, I'll love it. This, Chasing. I love the idea, but Chasing, the only problem I have with this right now is Godzilla is bigger than Empire State Building. And you King Kong, and let me say this too, I loved Peter Jackson's Naomi Watts, fell in love with her, by the way. Adaptation of King Kong. It was a little long for my taste, but doesn't even matter. But my whole point is, how big are you gonna make King Kong?
Well, that's a good question. But as we've known, one of the major things they talked about in Godzilla was his size change, and Godzilla has literally changed size maybe 7 or 8 times. And if they want to make him that much bigger, doesn't bother me. I mean, I don't necessarily know how big it should be, but again, I don't know. I didn't really think about that. I kind of forgot how big they made Godzilla, but I mean, what do you do to upsize something? You make something bigger. So I would assume they'd make King Kong bigger, but
holy crap, that's awesome. Come on.
I'm more excited, and then of course, hopefully, whoever would take on Skull Island is going to follow in the footsteps of Peter Jackson and get Andy Serkis to do the motion capture for King Kong, because that's gold right there, obviously.
Hey, and moving forward very quickly. I like this one that I'm about to say. July 22nd, 2016. Pterodactyl, Triceratops, Saber-toothed Tiger, Tyrannosaurus, the Mighty Morphing Power Rangers has an official release date. We're talking July 22nd, 2016 for all the sweaty nerds out there. Write that date down. Chasing Cinema, I got to ask you this. One,
It's so funny. As you said that, I was literally writing that date down.
Sweaty nerds.
Yeah.
Let me say this before you answer the question. I'm a fan. I think it's funny that, and keep in mind, if you don't know who I am, watch our videos, but I'm Chinese, so I can say this. I think it's funny that the Yellow Ranger was yellow. Or it was Chinese, sorry. The Yellow Ranger was Asian. The Black Ranger was black. And the white girl was pink. Love it. And I was a fan of it. I was young guy. Do you think that this reboot, who's being done by the same writers as the first Star Trek reboot, which we just mentioned we loved,
mm-hmm.
Do you believe, my man, that we can turn the Mighty Morphing Power Rangers from not just a kids thing, but do you think this can be a mainstream thing, or do you think it's going to go down as the best reference I can think of for you would be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, TMNT? Do you think it's going to be catered for kids, and if you used to like them, you're going to hate it? Or, I mean, tell me, what are your thoughts, brother?
Well, we kind of talked about this a little bit too. We kind of broke it down. I grew up more of a TMNT fan than a Power Ranger fan. They actually not recently, but they have the entire old school Power Ranger show, because there's like 50 variations of Power Rangers now. And I was like watching something when we were watching a family friend, and I was like, what is this? Like, this isn't Power Rangers. This isn't what happened, but whatever. And I watched the original show, and it is cheesy fun. And I've always loved when they get hit with something and they spark and they like explode when they get hit and they fly. I've always enjoyed that, no matter how old I've gotten. But it really depends on where they want to go with this film. I mean, obviously, when you say that we're going to make a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers film, it looks like it's going to be going on the nostalgia factor. But it depends. Are we going to try to be a serious? See, TMNT not only, I've said what I have to say about TMNT, but also walked a line where it didn't know what it wanted it to be. It was really goofy at times, and it tried to be dark at certain moments. And Spider-Man 2 also kind of suffered this syndrome of trying to be really, really serious and then really campy. And doing it too much doesn't really work, because you're not really sure which mood you need to be in to kind of adapt, or the film doesn't know which mood it should be in, so it just kind of feels confused. So it depends. If they want to make this a nostalgia film and they want to have fun with it, I say you go 100% and you go as cheesy as possible. If you want to take it serious, I think this could be a serious movie. In an age where comic book heroes reigns the screen, I think, a group of kids who dress up as who can morph into superheroes and turn into one big, creature. I think it'll work. I cannot see that movie failing, because as we already know, similar to TMNT, it already has an audience. People are already going to buy tickets no matter what the trailer looks like. I'm sure there are going to be people who aren't going to be happy with their suits. I'm sure there are going to be people who are excited about the casting, and it's just going to be one of those movies where we're just going to have to see and find out. But I will tell you, I better see some sparks fly and them flipping over and falling in the dirt, or I'm going to be very upset.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, good. I love it. This next one, I want to know, okay, Chasing Cinema, we got Batman v Superman filming right now in Detroit, Michigan.
Yes.
And Jason Momoa has been so long rumored to be Aquaman. Mm-hmm. He has not denied it. He's been asked on, I don't know if it was Jimmy Kimmel, but it doesn't matter. He's been directly asked. He's like, no. So he's dancing around. He's doing his part, and I appreciate that. To be honest with you, that's their job. For heaven's sakes, learn marketing 101. Anyway, so Jason Momoa hasn't said it. Gal Gadot has been rock climbing. She put a picture of Instagram at the exact same place Jason Momoa was also rock climbing. So that tells us, okay, dude, come on, they're both there. We know she's Wonder Woman. We got Wonder Woman. We got Aquaman doing their thing. Anyway, newest news says that right now Warner Brothers has given, they have these plot points. These are the 5 things we want Aquaman to have. Write us a story. They've given the script to 2 people and said, these are the 5 points. Write us a script. And then they're going to read both these and either figure out which one they like better or possibly potentially take aspects of script A and aspects of script B, mesh it together and make an awesome Aquaman. So the first question is, do you think that this is a good idea to have 2 people write a script and then see which one's better, like kind of like Gladiator, fight and whoever is not dead wins? Or, I'm sorry, so that's the first question, Chasing. And the second question is, do you think Jason Momoa can be a BAMF? Can he be a BA Aquaman? Chasing Cinema, what do we got? I'm excited.
Well, strangely enough, this is another one of those when you tell someone what you do and you tell someone you're a movie critic, the questions come flying. Have you seen this, this, and this? What do you think about this person being cast as this? And this one, strangely enough, is a very big topic. I honestly cannot really comment. I for one never really read much of Aquaman, and I think he's a character that has been joked around so much that I would think people are going to be hesitant no matter how, BA this guy looks or how BA they're going to portray the character. I think people are still going to be hesitant and kind of crack jokes under their breath. So I'm really interested to see how they do that. As far as the scripts, I think that could be very good to see kind of 2 different perspectives, but as well, some filmmaker might want to go, as I mentioned just previously, in one direction and make it campy and cheesy. And some films work like that. Other films try to be really dark and serious, and some films work like that. A perfect example is, Thor 2 is a perfect example of a much more comedic, light Marvel movie opposed to films such as Captain America: The Winter Soldier, which tends to be very serious. Sure, there are a few jokes cracked, and there are a few dark scenes in Thor, but you could tell the major difference of mood you go in and out of.
Haley Atwell. Sorry.
So, for Aquaman, I don't know, because it's kind of the thing where if you make him 2 BAs, that's just going to kind of even make it more foolish. Where you're like, they're trying to make that Aquaman, like that's ridiculous. So, dude, I really don't know. What do you think?
Chasing, have you seen Injustice: Gods amongst us? Sorry, I can't talk.
Which one?
Injustice: Gods Amongst Us, the video game.
I have not.
Go to YouTube. Everybody.
Oh, wait. The DC? The DC?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I know of it, but I never played it.
Everybody right now on Chasing Cinema. Go to youtube.com. In the search query, put in Injustice Gods Among Us movie, where they take only the cinematic scenes and they just put it all into a movie. So you don't have to watch the video game aspect of it. Dude, Aquaman, bro. He will kill somebody. Aquaman is awesome.
See?
Aquaman is not a fish out of water. Aquaman isn't some nerd that talks to dolphins and fish. Does he do that? Yes. But is he that? No. The New 52s, and if you don't even know what the New 52s is, you're not even a sweaty nerd. So go to Google and research the DC New 52s. They revamped everything. And Aquaman is Aquaman, bro. Woo! Dude, I'm getting so excited just thinking about it, talking about it with you right now.
Well, I've heard a lot about this whole thing. I think that's becoming a very big fad really quick. If you are a video game person and you've not heard of this, if you YouTube pretty much any video game or any really popular video game, it seems they are making cinematic films out of it by taking out the gameplay and just doing the cinematic moments.
It's amazing.
They did it with Batman Arkham's the Arkham series, and I would honestly recommend that would be such a great Batman script and a Batman movie.
Yes.
I would hope they'd go in that direction, but I'm not sure if they will. However, I will have to watch the one James is talking about. But either way, it's not that I think that Aquaman's cheesy. I just think the world has that perception of him because they know so little. I've never really met someone who says, you know what, my favorite superhero was Aquaman. I read all those comics. Let alone anyone who's really owned an Aquaman comic.
Hey, you know what the truth is, though, Chasing, is even back in the day when they first announced Iron Man, unless you were a comic book buyer, which the truth is, statistically, we're talking maybe 100,000 issues, which is absolutely horrid. The comic book industry is dying as a whole. Thank God for the movie, seriously. Even back then, people really weren't – they've heard of Iron Man, but they couldn't tell you anything like they can now. They couldn't tell you about Thor. They couldn't tell you anything like Captain America, Falcon, Winter Soldier. So just want to throw that out, brother.
No, this is very true, but I feel like the world of comics now and being major referenced in so many – I think that the whole thing of Aquaman still kind of has this lingering joke. But I agree. I honestly cannot tell you I've sat down and read multiple Aquaman comics, so I don't have this prejudice against this character. If they execute him right, they will. I just don't know what is right. I mean, there's a way that I think Superman should be. There's a way I think Batman should be, and so on and so forth. But as long as I enjoy the film and I think the character is used well, no matter if I think that's how he should be used or not, if it's executed well, that's what matters. So as far as Aquaman, he like so many other things, to me, is just a toss up in the air and could be either great or could just be bad. So I don't know. I'm sure they will try to make, in my opinion, I think they're going to make him try to be, this really, really amazingly intense, kind of superhero. And I'm not sure if it'll work for that character as well as it does for Batman or Superman. So, the comic book world needs some cheese. It's okay. They need to realize that sometimes. It's okay to be cheesy. So that's what's worked for comics for I don't know how many years. We have gone into a darker age in comics, and some characters can do it, but other characters try and it just doesn't work the same. So I don't know. I would hope that they just try to stay as loyal to the characters as they can by making him intriguing for a new audience.
Chasing, I forgot to ask you, or I've never asked you, are you a fan of Kevin Smith?
I'm surprised we've never really talked about this. Kevin Smith was one of my very first influences in film in general and in just someone that I enjoy listening to. His podcast was a major inspiration for me to go on and make podcasts, but I am a huge Kevin Smith fan and have been following him probably since I was in middle school.
Hey, the things coming out of Kevin Smith's – or first off, before I say that, did you see Superman Doomsday where they drew in Kevin Smith?
Yes.
That's awesome. Anyway, the things that's coming out of his mouth on his podcast where he's saying that these DC movies that's all going to come out over the next basically till 2020 is just one huge Justice League film. There's still going to be the Justice League movie that's titled that without America, of course, for the international money. But I'm just so excited about if DC does what Marvel has done for me. Man, this Batman's going to be awesome. Superman's going to be awesome. Characters, these cinematic universes, bro. Woo!
My only thing with that is DC is approaching it much different than Marvel did.
Yes.
Because as we've, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been listening to this podcast, you've heard me say it multiple times. And I believe even in our video reviews, Marvel planted so many seeds and let them grow. Where it seems like the DC couldn't run any faster to get this Justice League thing out. And to me, I think that's kind of not the smartest way to do it because we literally waited like 11 to 10 years for the Avengers. That's a long time to wait for something. And that night at the theater was magical, and I was really surprised that movie actually literally held up to the hype. But Justice League, cramming it all in, you only get really one shot at this. You could reboot it, but no matter how many times you make it after the first one, it's not going to be as big. So I really, really, I'm sure the filmmakers are listening to my every word right now, but I really advise the filmmakers to take their time and develop these characters so we could actually build anticipation. Like I said with sequels, if you don't give us that time to long or to crave, we don't appreciate it. When you wanted that toy when you were a kid and your mom said no and you didn't get it, but you got it like 3 months later for your birthday, you appreciated it a lot more than if you just would have got it at that moment, if you know what I'm saying. So,
hey, please.
No, I was done.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, if they do the realm of, how we got Iron Man, backstory, story. Next one at the end credits teasing Thor. Then Thor, backstory, full story, brand new, bad guy, teased us into Captain America, etc. But the DC route, it is unnecessary to do an origin story of Man of Steel, and they didn't do that, and Zack Snyder instead gave us flashbacks. And I think even if you were completely didn't know anything about Superman, which really is a small percentage of people, even if you know you don't like comic books, everyone knows at least, oh, Superman, the guy that flies. That I felt, tell me real quick, I know we mentioned it, but for the listeners today, do you feel that Zack Snyder did enough, though, for a backstory, flashback style, that even if you didn't know anything about Superman, Man of Steel was enough to understand, oh, okay, origins, what he went through with his father. Father's dead, Zod.
Well, I really think it's interesting because I remember talking to a lot of critics and a lot of other people that saw Man of Steel and enjoyed it, and I was amongst them. I really enjoyed Man of Steel. However, when the film kind of trickled down to DVD and Blu-ray, I heard a lot of negative feedback. Kind of, it seemed to me like out of nowhere, where a lot of people had a lot to complain about that movie. I thought Zack Snyder did a great Superman movie and did the movie justice. I felt that he went a different route in telling that story, and it wasn't the same old version. And I appreciated that as far as formatting, and I appreciated that. And I think that that's the story was perfectly told in that film. Well, maybe not perfectly, but I mean, well enough. It was good. It was good. It was good enough so I can accept it and move on. However, as we've both stated many times, I think Man of Steel could have had another movie by himself without the help of Batman. I mean, Batman has literally more movies than any superhero right now, even though Wolverine is kind of coming a close second. Batman has been dominating the big screen and, jumping from actor to actor. And after the success of The Dark Knight, you're kind of just, you're putting a lot of money on, you're putting what's the phrase I'm looking for here? You're putting all your chips in one pot. And, I love the man. I'm a Batman worshiper for life, but it's just I'm afraid that one time it's just, if one of those elements don't work, if one of those movies don't work, if they make an Aquaman movie and that doesn't work, or if that doesn't transcend the audience, or Wonder Woman doesn't appeal to people and doesn't seem to work, and they make a Justice League movie, the whole thing doesn't work. So I think that's what they gotta kind of think about too. So I think that's a major thing, and I'm just afraid. I just don't want people jumping the gun and getting crazy.
Last part, Jason. I got to ask you this one. Okay. Last part. Ben Affleck was just interviewed by, I want to say Entertainment Weekly. If I'm wrong about that, please don't kill Chasing. It's all me. I can't remember. I hate not giving credit to people who deserve credit. I want to say it's Entertainment Weekly, but it's irrelevant. He was asked about Batman, and this was just a couple days ago. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, and I'm sure I'm going to lose stuff, but he basically said, I'm taking on this role because, one, Zack Snyder makes an amazing visual movie. Nobody can deny that. Then he said the script was an interesting take, and the way that Chris Torino or whatever wrote it was amazing. And then that means, because he wrote Argo, Oscar win, hello.
Yes.
So we have a guy that wrote, cleaned up, shaped, built out Argo, an Oscar-winning film that, again, it's not even debatable. It was... People say it was. There's a lot of people said that was the best film of the year, let alone the Oscar win, etc. Yeah. So we have a guy who's visually a mastermind, Zack Snyder. We have Chris Torino, who wrote that script, is the one that cleaned up Goyer's script for Batman v Superman. So we have an awesome script, hopefully. We have a visual mastermind, which I think we know. We have Batman, Ben Affleck. He's all in for it. And then this is also coming from Ben Affleck. He's saying in this interview, obviously he's not going to trash the movie. That's of course, but we also have to remember he's saying this from his point of view. He is not an actor anymore, or he is an actor, but he is a filmmaker. Yes. He is behind the camera. So, dude, it gets me jacked, Chasing, just thinking about it.
I think that's really good, and that excites me as well. I didn't read this interview that you're talking about, but that is very exciting, and I hope that and I think that's one thing that a lot of people miss. I think it seems so easy to so many people how to format a superhero film, and I feel like there's so much writing that could be done that could really, really make these films so much more effective in certain ways. And I'm hoping that this writer actually brings that to the table. And if he could write an amazing story and make this like any other, Batman or even superhero type film of this same kind of format that we've gotten used to, then more power to him, because they're going to really shake things up with Marvel. because
I love it.
You know, I mean, they're battling obviously, and I feel like right now, I think everyone thinks that Marvel has the upper hand, and this is what DC needs to do in order to survive the battle, to make Justice League and make sure it works. But if they change the way that they're made and how they're perceived, then they could really shake things up.
I love it. All right, chasing. Moving on.
Yeah, James, thank you for an amazing segment of movie news. We had a good, solid moment of some movie news. But we are going to move on right now, and I'm going to quickly review The Giver, and then James and I are going to talk about The Expendables 3, and we're going to wrap up here in about 15 minutes. So let's see what we could do. The Giver. The Giver was based off a 1993 novel that made its way onto a lot of middle school reading lists. And it was one that I actually never read, but I always kind of knew of. And seeing Jeff Bridges and Meryl Streep were going to be starring in it, I was pretty intrigued. This is something that I was looking forward to, just to see Meryl Streep, because I am a humongous Meryl Streep fan. But at the same time, the film, to me, not really knowing very much of the story, but knowing the general plot, looked like something we've seen so many times before. We are in an age where the new world, or the new community, or the new district, or whatever it is that these characters are living in, all seem too familiar. We have films like The Hunger Games and Divergent, where there's, you know, this change in the world after a big war, or the ruin, or whatever you want to title it, depending on which movie you're talking about, that it doesn't seem very new. However, I went in the film kind of blank and was expecting something to enjoy. And I felt this film, though the writer of the novel may have wrote this type of story before anyone else, or at least before the films that we're comparing it to, like The Hunger Games or Divergent. Obviously, her book was out first. It feels like she was definitely last to this race, and it unfortunately gives The Giver a feeling of, you know, being more of a knockoff, or something that tries to be those films rather than being an original. And I felt that not only was because of the two films that we are comparing it to, but because the effort that was put in this film. I felt this film literally just felt so effortless, and I don't mean that in a good way. I just mean that I just felt like they were just like, all right, this is a story, it's going to work. People read the book, and that is a major problem for me. A huge thing was, I'm probably going to butcher his name, Brenton Thwaites, the lead star of the film. I had so hard of a time connecting or even attaching myself to him. I mean, I really didn't connect or attach myself to him, and that's a major problem in a movie when you are following this character who's eventually going to kind of lead a revolt, if you will, and it just was so hard to kind of accept him. The only scenes that I really enjoyed was when Jeff Bridges and Meryl Streep were on the screen, but they weren't even really used to their name. Meryl Streep, though she's amazing and though she can play any role better than probably anyone in the world, they didn't really use Meryl Streep to any really advantage. I mean, she has some lines, and of course, being Meryl Streep, her presence is a lot more taken in, but even her wasn't used to her potential. There's one scene that I enjoy in the film, and it is when Jeff Bridges and Meryl Streep kind of go butt heads about the movie's themes and messages. And though this film, which is about, you know, the power of individuality and the relationship of pleasure and pain and sweet and sour, pleasure and pain and sweet and sour, and the way the world works. Another mistake that a lot of films that want to say something do is that they say it so loud in your ear and they beat you over the head with it that you're just kind of sick of it very early. In the very beginning, when they're telling you this whole entire story, you could kind of already understand what the problem is and what the theme is telling you. However, the movie constantly feels the need to remind you. I've explained this, how I felt, to a lot of people, and this is the best way I could really describe The Giver. I thought the movie's pacing was very off. I felt the movie never really took off, and I'm not saying it because the film is equivalent to the quality of a car, but it's like if you're in a Ferrari and you're driving in first gear the entire way, and you're just waiting to pop in a second, and the moment you do, you turn the corner and park. And to me, that's how it felt. I just felt like I was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and then boom, 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 action, 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 over. And I just felt no payoff for the film. I didn't get anything from the film. I just walked away very disappointed, and I don't know why this movie just seemed not to work, if it was because it's time, because of when it came out after these films that have done it so much better and had so much more heart in them. The Hunger Games, with Jennifer Lawrence and then you have Divergent with Woodley. I mean, these two gorgeous, charismatic, wonderful actresses. And then you have, someone like Thwaites who just doesn't seem like he's offering very much and doesn't give you much to latch onto. It just was pretty disappointing overall.
Hey, I didn't see it. People loved it. I don't know, man.
Were people excited for it at the movie theaters?
No. I mean the book. People loved it.
People did love the book.
Yeah, people loved the book, but I don't know. It just didn't. I mean, I don't even want to watch it, and I could watch it for free.
A lot of people, I mean, I didn't see much production. A lot of people didn't even really talk about it when it came out. A lot of people didn't even know it was coming out this week. So I was pretty shocked that the movie just felt, like I said, like there was no much effort put into this film.
Hey, it happens. Chasing.
Moving on, me and James are going to be reviewing now The Expendables 3, directed by Patrick Hughes. A story that came from Sylvester Stallone in 2010, and now he is making his third film. We have new additions like Wesley Snipes, Harrison Ford, Antonio Banderas, and Mel Gibson. If you don't know, The Expendables is about a group of mercenaries, and that is led by a character named Barney Ross, who's played by Sylvester Stallone. And after things get really, really close, Barney Ross decides to retire his team of men that we have grown to kind of know as his group, and he decides to get a much younger group in order to stop an old friend who has become a new enemy, and that is Mel Gibson. James, as always, sir, why don't you tell us what you thought of Expendables 3?
Chasing. Okay, I'm going to... if anyone watches our YouTube channel, you'll notice that we right when we get out of the movie, we film it. So a lot of times, I know for me, and I can probably speak for Chasing too, is we say it off the cuff. We don't pre-script it. There's nothing fake about what we're saying because we're just literally just going off the cuff. We just got out. We're saying it. And I know after we do the video, I'm always like, oh, I should have said this or I should have said that.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So I wanted to kind of, and I won't go longer than 30 seconds for each character, but I have IMDb pulled up right now. Okay. I promise no longer than 30 seconds for each one.
Do your thing.
But I wanted to just, Expendables 3 is an Expendables movie. If you like Expendables 1 and 2, I think you're going to like Part 3. I think if people say they didn't like it, I bet the reason why they're not going to like it is because we're here to see the Expendables and you're taking out the Expendables for the new people. I get it, new generation. But the truth is that's just a marketing ploy anyway, because if this movie, I think Expendables 2 did 300 million plus worldwide. If this one does 300 million worldwide, trust me, they're all coming back. So I felt that you're taking out Jason Statham, big mistake. That's why we fell in love with it, not for these other people, in my opinion. So Sylvester Stallone, man, this guy's getting worn out, man. Sylvester Stallone and people love him. I think he's cool. I don't have a problem with him at all, but he's not like this end-all, do-all. I have to see a Sylvester Stallone movie. And I feel he plays always the same guy with the same heart feeling. And, hey, I love heart feelings, so I'm not complaining really either. So Sylvester Stallone was fine in the movie. Jason Statham, you didn't utilize him. I felt there wasn't enough Jason Statham. I love Jason Statham. And I know that he's that age, but Jason Statham is still hot in this day and age in 2013. Arnold Schwarzenegger, not hot. Jason Statham is still hot, I think. So the fact that we kind of narrowed him out, I don't know if it's because of there's so much big cast that they only paid him so much, so he's only going to do so much time. I don't know the situation, but it's Jason Statham, you did not utilize him. But for Lee Christmas, for what we did see him, loved him. Awesome. Harrison Ford, man, he's grumpy now. And I know that's the character he plays, but hey, if you haven't seen Regarding Henry, awesome. It's from the 80s, maybe. Rich dude, lawyer, really bad guy, gets shot, loses all memory, doesn't die, comes back as a kid basically in a grown-up's body, and Ree has to learn how to write. Ree has to learn how to read, and he does it with his daughter. That movie, loved it. Regarding Henry, moving on. Fugitive, loved it. Harrison Ford, man, this guy looks just depressed, man. I hope he's not feeling this way in real life. But he just is grumpy, man, and his cameo did nothing for me, just to be honest with everybody. I loved his little punch, though, at Bruce Willis. That little joke he said in the helicopter, basically, I fired Bruce Willis. That was cool. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he wasn't even in the movie for 10 minutes. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, Man, dude, this guy, after chasing, what was the movie he was just in? Sabotage. Man, talk about career destroyer. I'm hoping Terminator Genesis does something for him, because I love Arnold. And then the two, I don't know if this is counted as a spoiler, so if it is, I apologize. He says the chopper joke twice in the movie. The first time was enough, but then they threw it in a second time. I was like, oh, well, now, no, why didn't you just pick another notorious line he's known for? You don't have to do it twice in the same movie within 15 minutes. Just saying. Mel Gibson, awesome. Bad guy, love it. And the truth is, he can't even play a good guy anymore. All his rants he's gone off, what he's done to that woman. Was it his wife? It's irrelevant if it was his wife, but what he did. And yeah, man, the only thing he can play is a bad guy. Thank God for that one movie. Thank God for Robert Rodriguez hiring him for that one movie. That's how relevant it is. But I love Mel Gibson in Braveheart. That's probably in my top 15 movies of all time. But man, he's fallen off the wagon. But yeah, as a bad guy, he was awesome. Wesley Snipes, the joke about tax evasion, brilliant. And for me, hey, let's get Blade 4. Let's bring it back. Blade 4, take out Ryan Reynolds. Blade 4, let's do it. Wesley Snipes is fun. Good to see him out of jail, and hopefully he can get some work, because there is only so much I feel that he's going to be offered. And anyway, Dolph Lundgren, he was cool. I mean, it was so minor. I can't even be negative on it. It was so minor. Randy Couture, again, it was so minor. I really can't say anything about it. Terry Crews, man, underutilization of the character. Talk about, you're shot, bam, okay, moving on. It's like the Jet Li factor in part 2. Was it part 2? Doesn't even matter. Yeah, it was like Jet Li factor. Come on, Terry Crews, Old Spice. I want to see Terry Crews. Anyway, Kelsey Grammer. No disrespect to Kelsey Grammer. When is he an action star? He's not even an action star. We're bringing all the BAs and the BAMs and all the beast modes. Kelsey Grammer is a psychiatrist. He's Frasier. But, you know, that whole maybe 20-minute segment bringing us to the new characters, I guess if that's the intention, to not bring any of these guys back for part 4, I don't care if you tell me in the teaser trailer. I don't care if you say it on film. This is our last one. This makes $350 million. Sylvester Stallone's going to be the first one to say, okay, I just finished the script for part 4. So Kelsey Grammer, hey, didn't have a problem with him, but yeah, wasn't needed for me. And the last person, two more. Kellen Lutz. Dude, Kellen Lutz, man, maybe this is a film for him, because he did not do good in Hercules. I didn't watch either Hercules this year. We had 2 Hercules. I didn't watch either of them. But Kellen Lutz, man, Twilight, if anyone, I mean, good luck to you, man. Good-looking guy, obviously. That's not debatable. People like him. Women like him. Good luck to him. His part was, again, it wasn't anything crazy for me. Ronda Rousey, don't even want to say anything. Last part, and I'm done chasing. Antonio Banderas. Too much for me. I mean, it was funny. I'm not going to say it wasn't funny. It was funny, but really? Really? Like, was that the whole time? Was that necessary? The whole introduction, funny guy, da-da-da. But I guess it wouldn't make sense if he opened that way and then he didn't stay that way. I guess that would make sense too, but I don't know. I don't know why was his character needed to be like that the whole time. But hey, you know what? Like I said at the beginning, I'm not even a film critic. I am just the Chinaman that loves film. And overall, like I said, it's an Expendables movie. They're not trying to win an Oscar for Best Picture of the Year, Best Screenplay, anything like that. They're just trying to have a lot of fun. But again, I watched these movies for the nostalgia factor, and I felt that all my guys I wanted to see were underutilized because they're taken out. Like you just said, it's the new guys. They're taken out. So the Expendables, I mean, moving forward. ChasingCinema.com. That's my little review.
You might be a Chinaman who just loves movies, but you are a Chinaman who loves movies who is able to really see the same problems I'm seeing. Though we seem to be a little bit off on our video review, we are pretty much in sync here because you pretty much nailed everything I want to talk about. In my review, literally I open up with my theories. If you enjoyed all the Expendables film, then you'll enjoy this one as well. But if you were like me, wondering how this film got a sequel, let alone a third, you probably won't like it at all. And I think you said that, and that was perfectly it. If you like the Expendables, go see this movie. You'll enjoy it. If you don't, I mean, I saw all 3, and I honestly can't remember 1 or 2. And I'm not a fan. I think James really smartly kind of labeled everything I really wanted to talk about. The whole selling point of the Expendables, it is the heroes of yesterday starring in this film, and to take them out and to put people that I honestly feel the majority of audiences will not know, besides UFC bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey. And Kellen Lutz, I mean, maybe, but I think some people don't really know him. I think it's really, really off-putting, and though I didn't enjoy the film with the heroes of the yesteryear, it just became a bad action movie at that point. It literally became just a bad action movie starring Sylvester Stallone. It used to be a bad action movie starring with all these characters that you at least got some enjoy seeing. It is just like it is. I honestly think it's a carbon copy of its predecessors. Just really weird, bad special effects. The plenty of being old jokes and references of their careers, and even more heroes of yesterday. However, the one thing, I'm not going to go through every character like James did, but I will comment on the ones I think that need to be commented on. The redeeming factor of this film, the one that you need to see it for, is Mel Gibson. Like James said, he did awesome, and he was the only actor in the movie who played a character. See, the thing is, in Expendables, we're watching Sylvester Stallone. We don't know he's Barney Ross. No one cares about Barney Ross. He is playing the stereotype, typecasted character we've all grown to love. It is Sylvester Stallone in an action movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger in an action movie. You could ask people their names. I'm sure people could tell you Arnold Schwarzenegger's name in the movie or any of the other characters. It is just those characters that we like watching. Mel Gibson did not play Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson played a character named Stonebakes. He had motivation. He had development. And for that, I respected him because he's the only person who actually played a character. It's really easy to kind of just play yourself. And I mean, for Mel Gibson to kind of make an interesting character, though at sometimes he was way over the top with his character, he at least made the film entertaining. Where I think Sylvester Stallone sometimes, and I don't mean to sound too harsh on this, I feel like Sylvester Stallone just keeps these films going just to keep his ego up, because he's always got to be the one that does everything by himself. He's got to be, he's got to be the hero. It's always got to be Sylvester Stallone. And, if that's his thing, that's his thing. I don't agree with it. The movie just does not really work for me. I just think there's a lot of problems. Quick, to Antonio Banderas. Antonio Banderas, one of my favorite action stars growing up from films like Desperado. Definitely all comic relief in this film. Though I don't know if it's necessary, I actually kind of enjoyed the banter in him, because even though he was annoying, when he did get down, Antonio Banderas got down. But you are totally right about these other characters not being used at all. You have Wesley Snipes, who literally is a great, great actor, and is famous for his action films. Demolition Man is a classic that has Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, which I enjoyed, and I was glad to see them reunite. And he's barely in the film. He has, the action sequence in the beginning, the action sequence at the end. That's a problem when you have a name like that. Kelsey Grammer, me and you both kind of laughed, like, why is Kelsey Grammer being advertised on the Expendables like he was an action star? However, I feel like Kelsey Grammer was actually used pretty smartly. I liked his character. He wasn't much. He didn't really have a place. He was just part of the story. He was there for simply the plot reason. But it worked. I liked him. UFC Ronda Rousey, UFC Bantamweight champion. She was nice to see, but honestly, it just did not work. These characters were just there, and the movie just kind of went along. Really quick, James kind of talked about Jason Statham. I agree with you. I think Jason Statham is still present, but Jason Statham has kind of been falling on Expendables only, and I think that's a problem.
Why?
I feel like I feel like it's a problem that he's kind of just sticking to Expendables.
That's what I'm saying. Why is he doing that?
Oh, yeah, I have no idea. I mean, I love Transporter. Transporter was awesome, and he has had a great share of action movies. Even the movies that were bad, he was awesome seeing it, which is usually the arc of action movies. They're bad movies, but with great action stars. I like Jason Statham, and I just want him to do something else now, because now he's putting himself in this category of heroes of yesterday. He's
not even a hero of yesterday.
Exactly, that's my point. Why is he categorizing himself as an old action star, or putting himself in this film? Granted, I get he's there to kind of attract a younger audience, but why is he putting himself in that predicament and not doing new films and being the action star of today? We need an action star of today. We don't need another character in the Expendables. Anyone could take that role on. We don't need you doing that. We need you making more exciting, fresh action films. But if you decide you want to stay and do Expendables for your career, then you probably will be a hero of yesterday very, very shortly. But I agree with you that he was totally underused, and he is one of the best characters of these films. But overall, yeah, I honestly feel like this. If you've seen Expendables 1 and 2, it's nothing new except for a few new faces. If you're a big fan of Antonio Banderas or Mel Gibson, watch it. But if not, you could go on and just see Expendables 1. You've seen them all. And the one thing I want to point out, I wrote this in my review too, so don't think I'm coming off the top of my head. I'm not that quick. The definition of expendable is of an object designed to be used only once and then abandoned or destroyed.
This guy.
Unfortunately, the Expendables never got this memo because they would have abandoned and destroyed this story after the first. So I don't know how many more Expendables we're getting, but if anything's expendable, it is this franchise. So that's going to be my review of the Expendables 3. If you want to read a little bit more about what I have to say, read my review at chasingcinema.com/Expendables3. You can also see my review for The Giver on that website, chasingcinema.com/The-Giver. James, do you have anything else you want to leave with the audience before we get going?
No, I just enjoyed this. A lot of good fun. Hope everyone else liked it.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. A lot of fun chasing.
I greatly thank you for coming in today and being our guest host. Of course, I'm sure we're going to have you on very soon. We'll have to get a three-way going, me, you, and Louie, and really clash heads it, because Louie has different opinions of me and different opinions of you. So seeing us all three clash heads is going to be really, really fun. Thank you so much for taking your time out of your busy schedule, sir, to sit down and talk to me for an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening in. Make sure to check out our website, chasingcinema.com. Check out all of our YouTube reviews where you can see me and James go head-to-head live on film. You can see us in person clash over films, Chasing Cinema, or youtube.com/Chasing Cinema. We're on all the social media, facebook.com/Chasing Cinema, and of course on Twitter @Chasing Cinema. Find Mr. Shu. Shu, tell them where they should be finding you at.
Probably easiest way, you can just Google me, put in James, James, last name HSU, and then you can find all my Facebook and Twitter and all that wonderful social media awesomeness.
Me and James usually do not end our arguments in the video. So if you watch any of our videos, you will see him and I commenting and arguing on the comments. So feel free to click on his name and check out his channel. He has Chasing Cinema stuff on there, but he has a barrage more of amazing things on them, including a magician named Mr. Devra, who is awesome, I think is exciting. And a ton of other places and businesses and things that he has been a part of and worked with and stuff you really got to check out. If you're a local, especially, go check this stuff out. James, again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Jacob Toronto. You are James Shu.
Yes, sir.
Please continue chasing cinema.